Dear viewer, good evening and welcome to Current Issue. With me tonight, the representative of the Kurdish Regional Region, KRG, right?
Kurdistan
KRG
Regional Government.
Government in Washington. Okay, she is Bayan, Sami, Abdullah, Rahman. Bayan, welcome to MEA.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thanks for coming here, and thanks for all the effort you're doing in Washington and the nation to promote the Kurdish case and what you are suffering, and the whole world knows the situation in the Middle East is getting from bad to worse, and Kurdistan, it's in the middle of that commotion. Let me start asking you, how's your relation with Baghdad? We've been hearing back and forth throughout the 7, 8, 10 years that the relation is get better and then worse, or from worse to better. And then thanks to the Maliki, he destroyed all the relation with everybody in Iraq. So tell me about the relation in Baghdad, with Baghdad.
Well, you're absolutely right that our relationship with Baghdad, let's say since 2003, has had its ups and downs. In 2003, there was a great deal of genuine optimism that for the first time ever, Iraq had the opportunity to promote democracy, to embed democracy in our country. And we decided that we wanted to be part of that process. And the optimism continued when we agreed on a constitution. The majority of people who voted in favor of the referendum, voted in favor of the constitution.
Yes.
So all of these things gave us optimism, but unfortunately over time it's become clear that we are not viewed as partners in Baghdad. Mm-hmm. The Baghdad government wants to control or punish rather than to see Kurdistan and the Kurdish political elite or the leadership as part of a partnership. And this is really the heart of the problem, I would say, between Baghdad and Erbil. And then it manifests itself in discussions over the budget, in discussions over oil, and so on. But the crux of the matter is we want to be partners in Baghdad, in the government, in the decision making, in the process of running the country, and our partners in Baghdad don't see it that way.
I think al-Maliki, he become a dictatorship. He become the absolute decision maker, and see what happened to the Sunni. He didn't respect the right, and again with Kurdistan, he didn't respect any agreement that happened. I remember in Erbil, the agreement, and he agreed to it, and a few months later he changed his mind. And tell me what happened in Mosul, because there is a lot of people, and especially Mosul is very close in the border of Kurdistan, and a lot of people blame Kurdistan, and of course they blame al-Maliki. Al-Maliki, to me, in my opinion, what you see Daesh is the work of the al-Maliki because of his discrimination against everybody in Iraq except the Hizb al-Dawah. I'm not saying the whole Shia, except Hizb al-Dawah.
Well, certainly towards the end of Prime Minister Maliki's term, second term, we were raising the alarm that he was becoming increasingly authoritarian. For example, he was appointing people to very senior positions in the army or in the government, but appointing them as acting so-and-so, yes, acting position, thereby avoiding having parliamentary approval, which goes against the constitution. He cut off Kurdistan region's budget entirely in February 2014, and it's never really been reinstated. So certainly we found that we had many difficulties with Prime Minister Maliki, and he didn't really work well in trying to be inclusive with the Sunni Arab community or with the minorities either.
Yes.
As you say, we are now in a situation where Mosul...
Please. Do you think Abadi better than him, or it's the same He is part of Hizb al-Dawah, which is the one account to be the absolute control of the power in Baghdad.
I would say that Prime Minister Abadi is a different personality. He has a different character from Prime Minister Abadi. They are from the same party, so ideologically they carry similar views. I would say the issue with Prime Minister Abadi is more that it's questionable how much control he really has
Yes.
over the government and over the military forces. There are so many militias now
Yes.
in Iraq, and it's not clear how much control the Prime Minister has over all of them. We have said that we will support Prime Minister Abadi. We know that he has faced some challenges in the Iraqi parliament recently.
Yes.
And we don't see any gain in those honestly chaotic situations and scenes that we've been seeing.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that our friends in Baghdad, the members of parliament, the political leaders, have forgotten that we're fighting Daesh.
Yes.
That it seems that they think that Daesh is under control, so now there should be some kind of a power grab. And this is really what we're seeing being played out in Baghdad. And it's very unfortunate. I think whatever criticism we might have of the Prime Minister, we should support him while we're all fighting ISIS or Daesh.
Let's talk about Daesh a little bit, and I come back to al-Abadi and when he took power. How are you dealing with Daesh? Aggressive forces that have all kind of weapon that they got
Yes.
from Mosul's, heavy weapon and all that. And when we understand the Peshmerga have the tradition, military equipment and all that. Go ahead, please.
Yes, when ISIS took over Mosul, they also took over the banks, so they got a lot of cash. They took over a population that they could tax and manipulate, and they took over the latest, most modern, heavy, sophisticated weaponry that unfortunately the Iraqi army left behind when it fled. As a result, the Peshmerga have been outgunned by ISIS.
Yes.
Particularly at the beginning, in June, ISIS took over Mosul. In August, it started to attack Shingal or
All
Sinjar
the villages
and villages and the Christian community and the Yazidis, and also headed towards Erbil, the capital of the Kurdistan region. The Peshmerga really only had Kalashnikovs, maybe some RPGs. The weapons that our Peshmerga had were really from the old Soviet Union. Some heavy weapons, we have a few tanks that had been captured from Saddam's army, but really nothing to compare with what ISIS had or has today.
Yes.
Even today, of course, we're very grateful to the United States, and I really want to reiterate our gratitude to the United States, to the administration, Congress, the people of America, for supporting the Peshmerga against ISIS. We've received weapons and training from the United States and other coalition partners, but we haven't received the weapons that we really need to match what ISIS has. And sometimes we're very low on ammunition. And even if we have a certain weapon, if we don't have the ammunition, the weapon is useless. So this is where we are. We are outgunned by ISIS, but whatever training and weapons we receive from the coalition, we use them against ISIS. The Peshmerga have liberated all of the Kurdistani areas in Iraq, and we are protecting our own population of about 5.5 million, as well as almost 2 million displaced Iraqis and Syrian refugees.
Sure, we'll come to that. When I talk to the administration, they always mention to me, we trust the Kurd. We trust the Kurd in Syria, we trust the Kurd in Iraq, but we don't trust the government. Here we seen all the money, the weapon, everything America give it goes to the Baghdad government, to the central government, and I hear from them, we trust the Kurd. If you don't trust Baghdad government, why you give them the aids? Why you give them the weapon? Why you trying to stick with them? You trying to protect them? And you said you don't trust them, but we trust the Kurd. We trust if it's in Syria or Iraq. So how's the situation now? Why are you not putting I know you have 461 million from the Pentagon, but they should give you more. They should give you all the support if they have the trust on you.
Well, the United States has what it calls the One Iraq policy,
Yes.
meaning that its policies are to promote a unified Iraq, and our friends in the State Department are concerned about Iraq disintegrating or separating into
Yes.
different parts. You can argue that Iraq has already disintegrated. Daesh controls about a third of Iraq
Yes.
already and has changed the
And
dynamics.
then Anbar and all that control probably by
Yes.
the Sunni.
So the United States has a One Iraq policy, which means that military assistance, funding, anything like that has to go through Baghdad. Honestly, we don't mind if it goes through Baghdad, so long as we get it, so long as the aid or the financial assistance or the military equipment that was destined for the Peshmerga arrives as it was packaged
Yes.
and on time.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't happy last year and in late 2014 because we knew that some shipments of weapons were being held up by Baghdad.
Yes.
Even humanitarian aid
Yes.
was sometimes sitting on the tarmac at the airport in Baghdad.
Absolutely.
But
Because
when
they need to be cleared by the interior minister of Iraq,
Yes.
and they're not doing that.
Well, there were delays, and we made it very, very clear to the United States, to Britain, other countries, that we were not happy with the situation. And to give the State Department credit, they have really pushed Baghdad so that any weapons or anything else that goes through Baghdad, if it's destined for Kurdistan, there shouldn't be any delays. So let's wait and see how that develops. But really what's important for us is that we should continue to strengthen our relationship with the United States. We do see ourselves as a reliable partner to the
Yes.
United States in the fight against extremism, against fundamentalism and terrorism. And we believe that the Kurdistan region, as a government, as a people, as a military force, has proven itself to be a reliable ally of the United States.
And believe me, they trust you. I have the message from them. The situation in Syria, it seemed like United States and Russia, and including Iran, Saudi Arabia, they agree to have a three-part in Syria confederation: the Kurdish, the Sunni, and the Alawi. We see Kurdistan very well established, very well established. The central government have no interest in helping Kurdistan or doing anything with Kurdistan or with the Sunni. They are there for their Shia religion parties. This is fact, Don't you think is the time come? And I believe what I am hearing from Washington, Daesh, they will get rid of ISIS within probably 8 months to a year and a half. Don't you think is the time come for Kurdistan to declare their independence? We're not saying countries, confederation, or some kind of deal, but to rule themselves completely as independent country. Don't you think the time is coming now? I mean, I seen Baghdad is not interested, and I don't see any near future for the past next 2-3 years that any enhancement or any different is going to be in Baghdad government. Don't you see the difference? I mean, you have a responsibility to your people to look for their future. Don't you think the time comes now to declare independent?
We do have a responsibility towards our people, and particularly the young generation in Iraqi Kurdistan. They don't understand why we are still part of Iraq. They see that it's not just that the Kurds have aspirations towards independence, the Iraqis, the fellow Iraqis,
Yes.
don't want us anyway.
Absolutely. They
This
say,
is
go
the
ahead,
view-
be independent.
This is the view of the younger generation, and there's a great deal of pressure on the Kurdish leadership to clarify our position. And indeed, President Barzani, at the start of 2016, called for a referendum to be held this year in Iraqi Kurdistan, so that the people of Kurdistan could express their view. For the first time, the people of Kurdistan will be allowed to give their view on self-determination. Of course, we all expect that the majority in Kurdistan will vote in favor of independence or
Yes.
some kind of sovereignty. I don't think that means that the next day President Barzani
No,
will
of
be
course not.
declaring
But there's
independence.
a process to it to end up with your own.
Yes, and the first conversation we need to have is with Baghdad. And already there have been conversations with Prime Minister Abadi where the Kurdish leadership has spoken to him and has said, we do intend to hold a referendum, but before we embark on any serious steps towards independence, we will discuss things with you. We will not surprise Baghdad with anything, and we will not surprise our other friends and neighbors
You're being
and
very
allies
kind. You're being very
with
kind.
any
honestly.
decision. Well, you know, it's no secret that the Kurds
I mean, the
want
way they treat you
independence.
and the way you
No,
go
but
into them.
we want to achieve things peacefully
Yes.
because it's for everybody's benefit.
Yes.
We are not planning a war of independence. We are planning a peaceful process of independence, which may take a few years or a decade or a few decades or whatever. I don't know the timeline. But definitely the process has begun and we are on the path to independence. But the timeline is much, much more difficult to predict. What I think I can say with certainty, and I'm sure you see it yourself, Wally, which is that a centralized form of government in Iraq is finished anyway.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
Yeah.
whether we have a referendum,
And there is no
don't have-
future.
I don't think anybody in Iraq, neither the Shia nor the Sunnis, nor the Kurds, nor the minorities, nobody in Iraq wants to have a centralized form of government any longer. So that's the future that we're heading towards. But what shape and form it'll take in the immediate future is not very clear right now.
I see. How is your relation with Turkey and Iran? Let's start with Iran.
Well, our policy is to have good relationships with all of our neighbors.
Good.
And, you know, Turkey and Iran are big players, not only regionally. They're big players on the international stage.
Absolutely.
We're not even a sovereign state. We're a region. We're part of Iraq. So our policy is good trade relations with both Iran and Turkey, good diplomatic or political relations with both. This is where we are. But for us, a good relationship doesn't mean that they can control our agenda.
I see.
And
How
this
the
is where we
conflict
have always
between
drawn the
them
line.
And KKK, I mean the
The
Kurdish
The PKK, do you mean?
PKK. How was that? I mean, I have the Turkish counselor, and he said they are our enemy. They are a terrorist organization, but we still have a very good relation with Kurdistan, and we deal with the Kurdish community in Turkey or in Iraq. It's different than when we deal with PKK and all that. How you balance that?
We do have to balance it. I think that's a very good question. Look, we're all Kurds. We're all connected by blood, by history, by custom, by language. My own family, historically, my family actually came from Turkey, and some of the family stayed in Turkey. Some settled in what then became Iraq. Some settled in what became Syria.
Yes.
And my husband is an Iranian Kurd. So in my own family, I have relations in all parts of Kurdistan. And I just use that as an example of how closely connected we are.
Yes.
So what happens in Kurdistan in Turkey, or the Kurdish population in Turkey, is very important for us.
Exactly.
We believe that the Kurds, wherever they are, should aspire to achieve their political, cultural, linguistic rights and human rights wherever they are. And we have always encouraged them to do so through peaceful means and through dialogue. And this conflict between the PKK and Ankara, honestly, it serves no one.
Mm-hmm.
We are seeing just death on both sides. We
are you
seeing
playing a role of
destruction.
building relation, trying to
Well, honestly,
negotiate?
the Iraqi Kurdish leadership
Mhm.
played a very important role in the peace initiative in
Yes.
Turkey a few years ago.
Okay.
It's unfortunate that it's disintegrated, and we have said that we are absolutely ready at any time to try to bring about that peace initiative again. That is what we all want. We want to see an end to the conflict in Turkey.
Good. Let's go to the refugees. Over 1.5, 1.8 million came from South and Central Iraq to Kurdistan. There are some Kurdish from Syria come to Kurdistan. And at this time, honestly, I want to thank you on behalf of all the Christian, and I could say on behalf of all ethnic minority, for opening your door and protecting the people that came to Kurdistan, because I believe if it wasn't for you guys, most of them, they'll be probably killed, disappear, suffer miserably. But thanks to Kurdistan, they opened the door, an area of 4 million to host 1.8 million. That's a huge tax. Tell me, how is the situation there, how they live, where they live, how you handle with, as I mentioned, economically, how are you supporting that?
Well, you're right. We are hosting a total of 1.8 million internally displaced people in Iraq and Syrian refugees. So that's a huge jump in population for us, a 30% increase in population in Kurdistan region. Only 20% of the displaced and refugees are in camps.
Where is the rest?
The vast majority have been absorbed by the community.
Wow.
Those who could afford it have bought or rented houses.
Yes.
The majority have not been able to do so. So they live either in unfinished buildings, sometimes in the roadside, sometimes they have been sheltered by local families. So this has impacted our society and our economy. A 30% increase in population almost overnight. I mean, I exaggerate, but in the space of a few months.
Within a few weeks, you could
we
say.
all saw it,
Yeah,
right? Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands.
How you handle them economically?
So, well,
are you getting the aids from the United Nations, from the world
we get
community?
some, but honestly not enough. You know, a 30% increase in population means that the electricity supply, which used to be about 24 hours a day, is now half that because we have more people.
That's right. Yeah.
The health services,
housing,
the hospitals,
health,
the clinics,
education,
pharmaceuticals, all of these are under enormous pressure. More than 55% of the displaced children aren't in school. So it's impacting the host community and the IDPs, the displaced people, and the refugees. In terms of assistance, none of the financial assistance comes to the Kurdistan regional government. It goes to the United Nations or the Red Cross or NGOs.
I mean, just to cut you, Europe, with all the economic power they have, and so many countries, they couldn't handle 1 million.
Yes.
You are handling 1.8 million with very, very small economy.
Yes.
We give you huge credit for that.
Well, thank you, but really it's what all of us should be doing for each other. When someone knocks on your door for shelter because they're running for their life, what can you do except open the door? But it has meant that our economy is stretched. We haven't received our budget from Baghdad for more than 2 years. We are fighting a very expensive war. of course, we are receiving some weapons and training from the United States and the coalition, but the financial burden of paying the Peshmerga, providing fuel, uniforms, shelter,
Yes.
warehousing, transportation, maintaining an army, that's on our shoulders.
Costs a lot of money.
And it's a very costly war. We have lost 1,400 Peshmerga
Wow.
and 8,000 have been injured. And we're fighting a war on a daily basis. The front line with ISIS is 1,050 kilometers. I believe that's about 650
Wow.
miles. It's a huge financial as well as humanitarian burden. And for the refugees and the displaced, the situation is desperate because the United Nations struggles to raise enough money from the international community to deal with the crisis. It's never been able to raise the amount of money it needs for the refugees and displaced. So the financial vouchers to the displaced community are shrinking. The financial assistance is shrinking. The food basket is diminishing. As I said, more than 55% of children aren't in school. So no wonder these people are thinking, why am I
How
here?
about
Why don't I try for Europe?
USAID and the World
They all go through the UN. The US is the biggest contributor to the UN for Iraq. So we must thank the US. But really we need Europe to do more. We need the Gulf countries around the Middle East to do much more. I mean, you mentioned that Europe has been up in arms about sheltering refugees. But we should also ask, why is it that the Gulf countries have taken no refugees?
That's right. That's right.
We
They kept them
should-
away from them.
Yes.
Yes, they are. I mean, I think 2 years ago, Saudi Arabia, they donate 500 million to the
Yes.
through United Nations.
Yes.
Not
No, but
not
this
to
was-
you or
But this was the
Yeah.
first time, and
Yes.
it was a very bold
Yes.
and welcome move by Saudi Arabia. Last year, Kuwait donated $200 million through the Red Crescent. So there are these efforts, but the issue is that the problem is on a vast scale,
Yes,
and these are just band-aids
absolutely.
on a wound that could kill the patient.
Absolutely. I know it's a small contribution, but is there any contribution, any aid comes from the Iraqi community, for example, in Europe, and especially in the United States and Canada, through churches, through mosques, through whatever,
Absolutely. I would appeal to all of the community in the United States to do their best to raise money and help with the humanitarian crisis. It's affecting everybody,
Yes.
whether you are Christian, Muslim, Arab, Kurd, Assyrian, anything. We are all affected by it.
Yeah.
And any donations, any contributions, whether it's from churches, associations, to help. And there are so many ways to help. Help the children go to school.
Absolutely.
Help
family
with
to
healthcare.
family.
Exactly. Help
Yeah.
with winterization programs, providing blankets in the winter. Health is really one of the key problems that we have, because with the summer heat coming up, there's a real concern about the spread of disease. So we need healthcare, we need help with education, and all of these things we need help with from the community. The Peshmerga also have been suffering. They've been fighting heroically, genuinely heroically against ISIS. But their salaries have been paid in arrears because the KRG, the Kurdistan Regional Government, is facing this financial crisis. So we have been asking the United States and other coalition partners to provide financial assistance to the Peshmerga so that we can be sure that the fight against ISIS can continue. The Peshmerga are ready to fight. I think everybody accepts that. They have
Absolutely.
the will and the spirit to fight.
That's why they have the trust of America.
True.
Yes.
But when the Peshmerga go home from the front, they're on rotation, they go home from the front and they see that because their salary hasn't been paid for 3 or 4 months, their family hasn't been able to pay the rent, they're not able to buy the food that they need, they're not able to pay for healthcare, then that Peshmerga is torn. Should he
Yes.
go back to the front?
That's right.
Or should he stay and take care of his family?
Mm-hmm.
And this is why we have been asking the United States to help us alleviate the financial burden in terms of the fight against ISIS, so that the KRG can then spend its money on other things. And thankfully, Secretary Carter earlier this month in April
Yes.
announced a package of $415 million of financial assistance
Yes.
specifically for the Peshmerga. We're very grateful for that, but again, it's a big step, but it's not enough, and that's why I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to
Oh.
appeal to your viewers
It's a
to
pleasure.
do what they can to help the communities there.
Sure, and myself, I'm an advisor to the CEO of the largest medical equipment, medical supplies in the nation, in America. And I will do my best to
Thank
see
you.
a lot of shipment going to Kurdistan. I know you are in Michigan. We broadcast in North America, but you are in Michigan, visiting the community in Michigan. Do you that often? You go to a different state and you visit the community? And give me last minute a message from you to that community in America and Canada.
Well, I was posted to Washington, or to be representative in the United States in January 2015. In that time, I have visited various cities in the United States and communities. I've been to Texas, Florida, Tennessee. I've been to New York, but New York really was more for the UN General Assembly. And now I'm delighted to be here in Michigan. I've also visited Boston and Chicago. I have to say one thing, America is a beautiful country. Wherever you
Absolutely.
go, the landscape, the geography, the people may be slightly different, but always very hospitable and very beautiful country. It is definitely our mission to reach out to the community across the United States.
Good.
I think it's very important that we support each other. It's very important that we communicate, and this is part of our drive to try and meet face to face, establish those links. I know that my predecessor, Qubat Talabani,
Yes.
did this, and we want to continue
He
that.
was very active.
Yes, he was very active, very successful.
Yes.
And
And
with
I'm very
regards,
sure you're going to be the same thing, it's even more.
Thank you. And with regards to the community in Michigan, I've been here a very short time, but clearly a very hospitable community.
Thank you.
I have been welcomed so very warmly, but also an engaged community, a community that wants to be active,
Yes.
wants to lobby, wants to help each other, and wants to know what it can do more. And this is wonderful. So far, so good, but I hope that this is just the beginning.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming here. And
My
one more
pleasure.
time, I want you please to relay that message to the KRG government and official and the organization in Kurdistan. We thank him very much for opening their door to the Christian, to all the ethnic minority, that they have safe haven in Michigan, and with the relating to the independent. I think if we see an independent Kurdistan, we're gonna see those minorities very well protective, and by far more protective than the Iraqi government if they become part of the Kurdistan regional. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. Dear viewer, that was my interview with Bayan, Sami Abdul Rahman, and she is the Kurdish regional government representative in Washington. You know what? It's a so shame that the central government in Iraq, they don't protect the Iraqi people who are suffering so much. But we seen a small government in north of Iraq, which is, they call it Kurdistan, open their door to every Iraqi. If it's Shia, if it's Sunni, I was there, and I see Sunni, Shia, Yazidi, Christian, everybody was there. And honestly, we should thank them for that. And we should try our best to get more aid, to contact our representative, to contact the Hill, the White House, whoever we have organization, to contact them and try to get some aid to go to those people who suffer so much. Please get involved. Thanks for watching and good night.